My name is Malcolm, and I have the privilege of serving as the pastor here. And so thank you for joining us today. For those of you who have been here week after week after week, even those of you who have been here for 10 years with me, all right, thank you for showing up week after week after week. It always amazes me that people show up, whether it's their first time or their last time. So thanks for being here. We are in the midst of a teaching series that is titled Searching for Wholeness. We're looking at the sense in which each of us can feel a little bit like we're incomplete. Like things aren't full, like things are not the way that they should be. And we see this show up in some of the hurts, the hang-ups, and the habits that we engage in. Sometimes we realize that we are not complete because we are looking around and we're feeling a pain that won't go away. Or we are experiencing something that it just seems to be like holding on to us and we trip over it all the time. It's something hanging us up. Or quite simply, we're trying to cover up what we feel as an emptiness in us by filling it with something. It could be a behavior, it could be a substance, it could be an attitude. And the reality is that, man, we live in a messed up world. How many of you have noticed we lived in a messed up world? All right, all you have to do is turn on the news for just a little bit and you see how messed up it is. And right now, I would tell you that it feels like a little bit more intense than usual. It feels a little bit more intense than usual, and I'm not sure what exactly is driving some of this. But as we look around, we see acts of violence being carried out again and again in multiple places. We see, the families that used to be getting along tearing apart. We see leaders being removed from positions of leadership because of hurts, hang-ups, and habits. And I tell you right now, I mean, I part of me is just like, I think I just need to stop reading the news. Stop, because it's a little bit heavy on me. I don't know if it's been heavy on you, but it's been heavy on me. And as Joe talked just a few moments ago about the sense of peace, there's a sense in which I have a peace that gets me through the heaviness, but I'm wondering about the society around us, and I'm wondering how is it that we're going to get the opportunity to tell them about the peace that's available for them. That they don't have to continue in the overwhelm of the hurts, the hang-up, and the habit. But the hard part about it is that oftentimes our hurts, hang-ups, and habits, also known as addictions, are connected to our childhood. Oftentimes, these things that we are engaged in are connected to our childhood, and the pain that we are carrying or the patterns that we began to operate within as a child are oftentimes very difficult to address. They're very difficult to deal with because what happened is that we felt a discomfort or we experienced a pain or a trauma and we began to operate in a certain way, and we did it to protect and to heal ourselves in the moment because that's what we believed was the right thing to do. It's what our conscious and even subconscious mind engaged to say, this is what it will take. And for some of us, that what it will take is that we got strong and powerful, and we began to push others around. And for some of us, it wasn't so much that we began to push everybody around, but we said, no one's going to push me around. And for some of us, it was that we looked around and we saw that there were other people wounded, maybe even our own parents, and we began to try and heal them. And in trying to heal them, we never were able to take care of our own selves. And then some of us realized that it wouldn't do anything, it wouldn't do any good to try and deal with the outside world, and so we just turned inward. And we focused completely inward, and we didn't talk to anybody. We didn't have a friendship of any value. We knew people's names, but we didn't reveal anything about ourselves. We retreat it to our inner world. And some people in this day and age, they retreat to their inner world, but they also have an exterior world, and it's a false self that they put online. And they pretend to be somebody that they're not. Or they find a safe, what they define safe community, and those are the only people that they will interact with. And it turns out that that's not healing the brokenness. Trying to fix parents doesn't bring wholeness. Using any substance doesn't seem to satisfy or heal. It might distract for a moment or for a time, but oftentimes it creates a bigger problem. And in our relationships with other people, some of us have just said, well, this is just the way I am, and I'm never going to change. This is who I am. Do you know that who you are is not who you have to be? Who you are today is not who you have to be tomorrow. It's not even who you have to be at the end of this day. Because, just think about it from the standpoint of every now and then we wake up on the wrong side of the bed. Right? You know that phrase, that idea, we wake up and we're just not feeling well. A lot of our women have returned back from the women's retreat, and I'm guessing that those beds were not your bed, and so therefore it felt a little bit unusual, and you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Maybe for the women who were gone, the husband slept, and he rolled around and found himself rolling over onto the wrong side of the bed, and things were just a bit off, and it just felt a little abnormal. And do you know that the way you woke up in the morning is not how you have to finish the day? If you woke up angry, you don't have to go to bed angry. Now, if that is true about today, can it be true about your life? If you can experience that kind of change in your day because of what you have influence on and what you have control over, imagine what would happen if you let God have control and influence over your life and how your whole life might change. But the thing is that seems hard to believe. That seems hard to believe that life could change because, after all, this is the only life I know. After all, this is all that there is. And many of us believe that what we have grown up experiencing and the way that we see the world and the way that we operate is the only way it can be. And we cannot imagine another way. And friends, let me tell you, I've been there. I've wrestled with that. And that's a very difficult place. And it's a very uncomfortable place to be. And I want to encourage you and challenge you that change is possible. Change is possible. This past January, if you were with us, you may recall that I kicked off a teaching series called Out with the Old. You guys remember that one? Out with the Old. Some of you were here. Some of you are like, man, that was some of the best stuff you ever did, and you've forgotten it. All right, it's okay. All right, but it's like Out with the Old, and the idea was we were starting off a new calendar year, and so it was time to throw some things away and clear some space and declutter some things. And you may have just heard my son up here in the front laughing because he knows what this picture is, right? And this picture is a chair that we had in our house for 20 plus years. And it's one of those things where, like, when Christy and I got married, we didn't have any money. You remember those days back then when you got married and you didn't have any money? Right? Some of you are like, still there. Okay. All right. But I was working at a furniture store, and man, I was so excited because they were going to sell me the furniture at cost. Now, for those of you who don't know, the average markup in a furniture store is 100%. Right? The average markup in the furniture store is 100%. Now, things have changed, and I don't know how all the pricing works today, but 25 years ago, that's what it was. All right? And so I was working there, and we had like the borrowed bed or the given to us, handed down bed from a coworker, and we had a stinky, smelly sofa that had been in the dorm that we snuck out of the dorm, and we didn't have anything of really our stuff, you know what I'm saying? And I had gotten to the place where I was just like, all right, I was doing okay, and so we bought a brand new sofa and we bought this chair. The brand new sofa was a 96-inch over-plushed, super pillow stuffed on the back sofa, and it was great. But when we moved from Odessa to Dallas, I said, it's not going to fit. I don't know what house we're going to live in, but it's not going to fit because a 96-inch sofa doesn't fit easily into rental spaces. I can tell you because we had already had it in 3 apartments. And I thought, well, if we end up in an apartment, I don't want to have to carry that one up the stairs again. Because not only was it 96 inches long, but it was about 396 pounds. I don't know how much it really weighed, but it was heavy. It was heavy and awkward, and you're trying to get through the door, all these sort of things. So I got rid of that sofa like 10 years ago. But this sofa that you see on the screen, this chair and a half, 54 inches long, that also converted was a sleeper. Inside was a single twin bed sleeper unit. It was great. It had, just all the comforts. Well, when we first got it, it did. And then after 5 moves or so, it wasn't as comfortable anymore. Matter of fact, over the past 3 years, we sat in it, but nobody sat comfortably in it. Because it was one of those deals when you sat down in it, you almost sat on the floor because the springs in it were just shot. And so you see the 2 pillows that are in the picture. Over the past few months, Christy had actually put those pillows underneath the cushion, hoping that it would hold us up. And we were having a hard time letting go of it. It was a part of the family. It had been with us practically the whole time. And there was an element in which I struggled at different points, and Christy struggled at different points with trying to imagine how we would live without it. Even though it had become incredibly uncomfortable to the point that the arms, all of the cushion was gone. And you'd lay your head down on it, and you'd find the wood frame. How many of you have kept a piece of furniture like that? You've just held on to it. You've held on to it because you can't imagine life without that piece of furniture. Maybe it was a piece of furniture that grandma gave to you or your mom gave to you or something like that. And you're just like, we can't do life without that. Maybe it was something you grew up with. And you're like, I can't do life without it. But do you know that you can do life without it? And so that picture that you see is where I put the chair and a half on the curb. And you know who took it? The garbage man. Nobody else wanted my furniture, right? We probably put it out at a yard sale once, asking for like $20, $50 for it. Nobody wanted our stuff. Here's the thing is that some of the stuff that you've been carrying around, that you've been taking with you here and there and everywhere in between, you are carrying it and you don't have to keep carrying it. You can let it go. You can acknowledge what it is. And quite simply, I can tell you what that chair was. It was broken. It was broken, but I kept acting like it was okay. It didn't work the way it was supposed to. That twin-size bed that was inside there, we couldn't have that out for a guest to sleep on because they would just fall right through. Because all the springs were gone, and the mattress was incredibly uncomfortable. Matter of fact, the last time we used it, we had to put another mattress on top of it. Let me just tell you, that's when you know something's broken, when you're covering it up with something else. I'm not sure you caught that. You know something is broken when you are covering it up with something else. And so if you've got something going on in your life and you're like trying to cover it up, it's probably broken and you need to address it rather than keep holding on to it. You and I need to recognize that there are a lot of things in life that we need to just let go of. Because here was the dream. The dream was that I would be able to figure out how to get enough money to have the thing reupholstered. Because the thing was, the hard part about it was I would have to hire somebody else to reupholster it. I got a friend here in the church right now who's going, why didn't you give it to me, man? I'd have taken care of it for you, right? But the thing is it was one of those deals where I was powerless to be able to reupholster it. Both in skill and time, but also in dinero. I didn't have any money to fix a chair. I had cars going bad on me. I had to fix those cars. Eventually, I had to give up on the cars. It is hard for me to admit that I can't fix something. I'm going to say it again because some of you need to agree with this statement. It is hard for me to admit that I can't fix something. But you and I need to admit we are powerless. We need to admit that we are powerless over some things in our lives. That there are things that are clearly broken, things that are clearly not right, but yet we keep covering it up, we keep making excuse for it, we keep holding on to it, hoping that somehow it's going to miraculously fix itself, it's going to be whole again, when the truth is we just need to admit that we are broken and powerless to fix it. And until we can admit that we are broken and powerless, we will struggle to experience wholeness. The first step in the journey of searching for wholeness is to admit that you are broken and powerless. Last week, Evelyn was speaking for us, and man, she did a good job, didn't she? Yeah, would you guys give God thanks for what Evelyn shared last week? And last week, Evelyn reminded us that trusting Jesus enables healing. Trusting Jesus enables healing. It doesn't mean it immediately happens. It is the beginning of the process. It starts with we admit. The next step is acknowledging the power that God has. Well, boy, let me just tell you, that's hard. It's hard enough to say, I can't fix it. It's even harder to say, God can. Because our shame keeps us from going to God to let Him fix it. We keep thinking, well, I'll just keep it hidden from God. Like that works. Right? We go through the motions of pretending that we'll figure it out. We even become experts at what the Bible has to say about all the wrong things, and we go, I know it's wrong. I know it's wrong. I know it's wrong, but I'm not going to trust God to fix it. I'm going to fix myself, and we keep going through the motions until we learn to trust. When we begin to trust Jesus, it enables healing to begin. Look over with me in Romans chapter 7. This is a passage that Evelyn shared with us last week. I just want to draw our attention back to it because honestly, as we are searching for wholeness, I think this is the struggle that most of us are in. Most of us find ourselves resonating so strongly with Romans chapter 7 that it can be overwhelming. But I'm just going to read just 3 verses because it sums it up so clearly. And maybe at different points in your life you felt more strongly about this passage than maybe you do today. Or maybe today it'll be the first time you hear it and you go, that's me. Romans chapter 7, verse 21. I have discovered this principle of life, that when I want to do what is right, I inevitably do what is wrong. I love God's law with all my heart, but there is another power within me that is at war with this mind. This power makes me a slave to the sin that is still within me. Verse 24, at different times in my life, I've highlighted this one because I felt this way. Oh, what a miserable person I am. Who will free me from this life that is dominated by sin and death? Oh, what a miserable person I am. Let me tell you, when you are you know that you're searching for wholeness when you can say, oh, what a miserable person I am. You're not interested in the journey of wholeness when you think, I got this together. You're not interested in getting, life change when you think, oh, I can handle this. You're interested in wholeness when you understand you're broken. When you understand the nature of it. Look again, verse 21. I have discovered this principle of life, that when I want to do what is right, I inevitably do what is wrong. Wow. How many of you, when you look at your life, you know that there have been seasons when you were like, I knew what was right, but I still did the wrong. Oh, I'm the only one? Okay, at least one or two of you are honest enough to confess in church. Some of you are double-barrel confessions. All right, 2 hands. It happens way more often than what we want to admit. And it doesn't just happen in our thought life. It happens in the actions that we carry out, in the way that we interact with family. Like, let's just be honest. How many times have you heard, hey, it's not good to yell at your kids, and yet you yelled at your kids? Yeah, that's just me. Okay. Mm-hmm. Or you hear, it's not good to call people names, but you were driving in traffic. All right, yeah, see, I got you there. You were just like, he had to go to that traffic thing. Look, I know we're all sinners when we drive, okay? So we might have like an angel or a Jesus token on our car, and we're just hoping that covers us for everything that we say when we're in the car, everything that we do when we treat others so poorly. Because it's hard to be a Jesus follower and drive in Dallas. And the further you have to drive, the more your salvation is tested. Forget sanctification, we're just talking salvation. Forget holy living, we're just talking like that we're going to get to heaven. Because sometimes the other drivers make us feel like we're really close. Fighting your sinful nature can feel like pushing a giant boulder. Fighting your sinful nature can feel like pushing a giant boulder. And the thing is that I'm not sure what's wrong with us, because many of us seem to think that this is the right way to go about it. I'm just going to push the boulder of the way that my sin controls me like I'm going to control it. The boulder is stronger. The boulder is larger. The boulder has more power than you do. But it's so easy to think if I just push on it, maybe, I know, we're afraid that the boulder's going to roll, and so we're just going to hold it back. We're not trying to move it, we're trying to keep it from moving. See, this is sin management. This is where most of us live. It's like we're stuck holding a boulder of our sin and all the wrong things, and we're like, it's not going to move, it's not going to move. And then all it takes is that boulder to start moving, and then you know what happens? You're smashed. You're smashed. It is a hard thing to acknowledge that you're powerless. It's an even harder thing to trust Jesus to take care of you. It's hard to trust Jesus to take care of you because, quite simply, you're the only one you ever trusted to take care of yourself. If you are pushing the boulder or trying to stop the boulder of your hurts, hang-ups, and habits, the idea of letting go of the boulder doesn't make sense because you've held it for so long and you're not sure if you step away from it that Jesus is going to keep you safe. You heard the story. Jesus can do it. Jesus can take care of your sin. Jesus can hold on to you. Jesus can protect you. And you're just like, yeah, that sounds great, but this boulder is really, really big and Jesus is really, really in heaven. He's not with me. I can't trust him to take care of this. And we continue to hold on to it when he is saying, let go. Trust me. He's saying, step aside. I've got this. Oh, that sounds way too simple. There's no way that even makes sense. Flip over into 2 Kings. That's way back into the Old Testament. I want to look at a brief story of a guy who really struggled with simple instructions. And maybe you can relate. Because it's like the more complex the instructions, the more I pay attention. But when the instructions are simple, I tend to skip them. All right, there's two people that agree with me. Great. Okay. All right. Look over here in 2 Kings. All right, and we're going to look at chapter 5, verses 1 through 13. So it's a short story of sorts, fun little story. There's a lot of context that you can pull out and look at and see the war that's going on and who the leaders are, but I'll do my best to kind of keep it simple. The king of Aram had a great admiration for Nahum, the commander of his army, because through him the Lord had given Aram great victory. But Nahum was a mighty warrior, but he also suffered from leprosy. He suffered from a skin condition that he had no control over. He had probably tried everything he could to cover it up, to protect himself from it, and to keep others from getting sick with it or whatever, and he just couldn't seem to get it to go away. Verse 2. At this time, the Aramean raiders had invaded the land of Israel, and among their captives was a young girl who had been given to Nahum's wife as a maid. One day, the girl said to her mistress, "I wish my master would go see the prophet in Samaria. He would heal him of his leprosy." You know, your friends, the people who work for you, the people who work alongside you, they wish that you would go get that thing taken care of. Verse 4. So Nahum told the king what the young girl from Israel had said, and go and visit the prophet, the king of Aram told him. I will send a letter of introduction for you and take the king of Israel. So Nahum started out carrying his gifts of 750 pounds of silver and 150 pounds of gold and 10 sets of clothing. The letter to the king of Israel said, with this letter I present my servant Nahum. I want you to heal him of his leprosy. Here's the thing. He's like, his co-worker, the king, wanted him healed so much that he was like, go for it, and they bring all of their resources, not all their resources, but they bring a lot of resources. We're going to get this fixed. Some of you, you've been through some struggles where you thought, well, if I just put more resources into it, I'll get this fixed. When the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes in dismay and said, am I God that I can give life and take it away? Why is this man asking me to heal someone with leprosy? I can see that he's just trying to pick a fight with me. Some people don't understand what's going on. But when Elisha, the man of God, the prophet, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes in dismay, he sent a message to Nahum. He said, said to the king, he said, why are you so upset? Send Nahum to me, and he will learn that there is a true prophet here in Israel. So Nahum went with his horses and chariots and waited at the door of Elisha's house. But Elisha sent a messenger out with a message, and he said, go wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan River. Then your skin will be restored, and you will be healed of leprosy. But Nahum became angry and stalked away. I thought he would certainly come out and meet me. I expected him to wave his hand over the leprosy and call on the name of the Lord his God and heal me. Aren't the rivers in Damascus and Aban and Pharaoh better than any of the rivers of Israel? Why shouldn't I wash in them and be healed? So Nahum turned and went away in rage. But his officer tried to reason with him and said, Sir, if the prophet had told you to do something very difficult, wouldn't you have done it? So you should certainly obey him when he says simply, go and wash and be cured. Let go of the boulder. That sounds way too simple. Shouldn't I have to prop it up with some other, resource, some fortification, whatever? No, just let go. Stop trying to be in control, because your control does not fix this. You are powerless before this. Let go and trust Jesus. That's too simple, isn't it? It's too simple just to trust Jesus. But if he had told us to go climb the highest mountain, we would be buying our hiking shoes. If he told us that all we have to do is go forth and cure cancer, we'd go forth and try and cure cancer. If he told us to go and do something incredibly difficult and impossible, like go move around the world and tell others about me, and then I will make you whole, then we'd be like, okay, sign me up. Where's the trip? Some of you did that. Instead, he said, just trust me. Surrender is not losing. He says, just trust me. That means that you've got to surrender. What? Just trust me. You see, the reason we're afraid to surrender is that we think that we lose when we surrender. But when we surrender to Jesus, we win. You guys didn't believe it, did you? When we surrender to Jesus, we win. See, right there, you're still not sure, are you? You're still not sure that you can fully trust him. What leads you to surrender? Is it when you've got it all figured out? Is it when you just like are at the stage where you're just like, I'm broke? I don't have any more money to throw at this? Is it when it's the one that you love that is sick? It's probably when you acknowledge you're powerless, right? So do me a favor. Yeah, just do this right now, everybody. Go ahead, grab your phone. Open up your camera. Put it on selfie mode. Look at yourself. Now, as you look at yourself in that selfie mode, be honest about your sin. Be honest about your hang-up. Be honest about your hurt. Look at yourself. How much power do you really have? The third step, the first one is we admit that we're powerless. The second one is we trust Jesus, and he begins to enable healing. The third step is that I can't, God can, so I'll let him. Did you catch that? I can't, God can, so I will let him. I can't stop this boulder. God can, so I'm going to let him. I can't fix this brokenness inside me. God can, so I'm going to let him. I can't seem to stop doing this over and over and over again, but God can, so I'm going to let him do it this time. I'm going to let him have it. I'm going to turn it over to him. I recognize that I'm at the end of myself, but I'm at the very beginning of God. I'm at the end of myself, but I'm at the very beginning of God. There is nothing you're facing, nothing that you've got going on, nothing that you've been through that is more difficult than what God is able to handle. I don't care how big or long or deep or wide it is. You may be thinking, I've had this my whole life. It's a generational issue. My parents had it. My grandparents had it. Let me just tell you, then let it go. Stop keeping the thing that you need to let go of, the thing that you know is broken. And just trust Jesus. Oh, that sounds too simple. It sounds simple. It's not as simple as we like to make it sound. Could you imagine if Nahum had gotten in the water and he's like, well, he said, go wash yourself in the Jordan River, and he got himself wet once. That's going to do it. No, the process isn't finished. The process was 7 times. I got to trust Jesus 7 days a week? Not just Sunday? Like 7 days a week? Like I got to trust Jesus on Tuesday? I mean, I trust that there's going to be tacos, but can I trust Jesus on Tuesday? Right? I got to turn around and trust him on Thursday and Friday. Oh, you don't know Friday night? That's a hard night. I don't know that I can trust him on Friday night. You can trust him Friday night. He'll see you through Friday night. You can trust him on Saturday night, and he'll see you through Saturday night. You can trust him all 7 days, and if you will learn to trust him all 7 days, the healing and the wholeness that you're looking for will come to pass. It may not be as immediate as you want, but stop trying to control it. And just start trusting day after day. I'm going to invite you to join me in this prayer. It's up on the screen. God, I offer myself to you to build with me and to do with me as you will. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do your will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of your power, your love, and your way of life. May I do your will always. Always. What that really means is that I can't. God can. I'm going to let him. I don't know what you've exactly got going on for you right now. But this I do know. Whatever you're facing, Jesus is calling. Whatever you're struggling with, Jesus is calling. Whatever it is that you feel like is that deep hurt, that hang up, or that habit, Jesus is calling and he's saying, come on. Come on, sinner. Come into the safety of my home. I'll take care of it. Because in my house, this is Jesus speaking, in my house, I take care of my children. I protect them from the enemy. I provide for them so that no famine can get to them. In my house, I've got it. You can trust me. So I don't know what you're struggling with in your personal house, but I can tell you, Jesus is calling. So these next few moments, we're going to open up the altars, and we just invite you to feel free to come forward, to pray, to seek the healing and hope and the process of wholeness that comes from trusting in Jesus. Lord, I bow before you right now, and I don't always know how your Spirit speaks and moves in me, much less than anybody else. But I know that sometimes I have a tendency to think that I can control it, and I just need to trust you. I need to stop pretending I can fix it, and I need to have confidence that you can fix it, and then step out of the way and let you do that. So for these next few moments, God, I'm going to step out of the way, and I'm going to trust you to fix. I'm going to trust you to guide and to lead. I'm going to trust you to work. In Jesus' name, amen. I invite you to come forward to the altars. If you need to talk to Jesus about trusting him today, now is your time.